Hello and welcome back to Forspoken. This is BioEnchanted, and today we are going to finish off what we can of the Guardian's Way and move on to Middle Praenost.
There.
So let us head to this locked labyrinth that's kind of blocking the way. Not quite blocking, we can just ignore it if we want to. And I believe on my first playthrough I think I actually did exactly that. This is one of those things I kind of returned to in post-game, I think, if I remember correctly.
Wow, this place sure is something.
It does rather pique one's interest.
So let's see what this labyrinth is like, shall we? This one, of course, is called Barrier, and yes, each one has a distinctive name to help kind of tell them all apart. Based, of course, on their location in the world. So this is kind of acting as a sort of pseudo-barrier between the Guardian's Way and Middle Praenost. Although, because he can just skip it, it's not really a barrier at all, but I guess it's just there because of where it's placed. Maybe that before the fall of Praenost, there may have actually been a barrier there. Or some kind of wall that got destroyed in the chaos. We have quite a few little guys to take care of on this route. Annoyingly, in this video, very few things are weak to our magic still, but that will be changing soon. That'll make leveling up our surge magic a lot easier. But we're not there quite yet.
We got this. Path splits here.
Choices.
So this is kind of an interesting labyrinth because it has a split. So the trick here, really, to figure out which one actually makes progress and which one doesn't, is look for the one that with the most icons, and that one's the most likely to be a dead end. So we're going to go for the one that's most likely to be a dead end first, so we can get extra stuff before we actually move on to where the boss will be. It's a cute little life hack and a very nice use of Cuff's ability. And yeah, there's a lot of these in these labyrinths as well. There's so many, like, little mana pools.
There, isn't it?
So it makes them very lucrative when trying to get enough mana to get new spells and things. It's definitely worth coming in here, even just for that. And we also have another magic lock chest, another puzzle chest. Although at this point the puzzle thing is very kind of overstatement.
That was a cinch.
Because they're still dealing with very easy puzzles, but they do get quite a bit trickier. So now that we've gone to the branch, let's go to the main route again and see what the next big combat room has to offer. Of course, I'm checking behind me every now and then because sometimes it kind of likes to hide mana pools just on the other side of doorways, where the camera will be facing away from them, which is a little bit cheeky. It's only ever one or two, but you still don't really want to miss any, because it just makes things annoying. So yeah, here we have a million enemies to take care of, so while it's not going to help us level up the surge magic, I'm still going to be making good use of it, because my goodness, there's a lot of people here to fight.
Whoa. My ace in the hole.
I was trying to remember exactly where all these L2 spells are as well. Because it can be quite hard to remember sometimes which order they come in if you haven't played for a bit.
Gotcha.
And Tendril's very good here because of how many people there are. but we're thinning out the crowd quite nicely.
Got you on your toes now.
Yeah, I could have probably timed that last one better. I kind of wasted that surge magic there. Only hit 3 of them. What I do quite like about this section of the map, though, is this is about where they start kind of adding new little twists to existing mechanics. So, for example, this is the first locked labyrinth that has a branch in it that you can reach, and then there'll be other complications to other mechanics in the next map as well.
Nice. Always good in a pinch.
And always check the corners because they're the most likely place, and by the exit doorways because they're the most likely places to find healing drafts. It's a bit of a life hack. I guess more of a strategy, yeah. So that's the main enemies taken care of. Let's find out what kind of boss we're dealing with.
No fooling around this time.
Welcome to our next boss type enemy, the Leslie Geiger's. This guy's not too difficult. He's got very straightforward attacks. Just avoid the big fire attacks and the big earthquake stuff and everything. And because it's a lesser boss, he has very little health. He's much easier to deal with than the water dragon thing from the previous one. Because there's not really any points where he's kind of hidden from you, and you can always just kind of hit him with something. But you still don't want to get hit by his attacks because, as you can see, they do quite a bit of damage. And they can build up quite a lot against you as well.
Ready for this?
It's a cool design for the enemy though, just a giant 4-armed giant just kind of leaping around. You're very kind of a somewhat Dark Souls-y kind of boss design really.
Just gonna come out and say this. I am now a major league badass.
That's him taken care of pretty quickly.
Of getting rid of me,
So let's see what the price is for this section of the labyrinth. I kind of like how each boss has a distinctive type of arena as well. Like these guys have like the big flat arenas, and then of course the water dragons have the platforms in water. That's an obvious one. So you can often get an idea of what kind of boss you'll be fighting before it spawns in.
Wonder what stories you've got to tell.
And of course our prize for this labyrinth is new lore. Now we have no two important pieces of information. The Reddig threw a demon into Athia that caused quite a lot of chaos, and that demon's name was Susurrus.
Don't you think this demon sounds an awful lot like our old friend?
The dragon, you mean? I thought so too.
So we're starting to get a little bit of context for how the Reddig's invasion kind of intersects with the backstory of the world so far. But we haven't really got that much information to go on yet. All we have right now is guesswork. An informed guess, for certain, but still a guess. So let's kind of move towards Middle Praenost finally now. To the next ruin, which is up on these railroad tracks ahead of us. Yeah, the main thing of this next area is going to be quite a bit more sort of mining infrastructure.
Nothing here but rocks. Look at that rock.
Its Tanta intended her realm to be unforgiving.
This area is more kind of like very falling apart infrastructure and things like that, but like here we have more complete bridges coming up and things like that, which is kind of
Okay, what do you say?
also
Kick some
more
ass, take some names?
sheer cliffs, of course it
Feeling a
is.
little bloodthirsty, are we?
Another
And why not
treasure.
actually use these dice, because I never used these in the main playthrough. I'd even forgotten they were here, so let's just use these for a bit of a change, shall we?
Guess it's my lucky day. Hey,
We have quite a powerful upgrade this time. Basically maxes out our defense for a while. So let's head over to these tracks while staying up on these cliffs, because this is kind of like one of the main things of this next area, is it's going to be harder to reach certain objectives because they're going to be close, they're going to be further and further up in the air compared to the actual, like, while running through the area is not going to be too difficult because there's still quite a lot of flat ground. A lot of the actual areas are quite a bit further up, and you have a little bit more context as well as to why things went completely so much worse when Sylar fell. Of course, as the chaos reigned, there were fewer and fewer messages getting to the front lines. But given what we've seen of Sylar, was that really a bad thing? Might this area have gone even worse if the her orders had got through? But we're not quite certain how far she'd fallen at this point though. We'll get more of an idea of that later.
they just left them.
But that's kind of the problem with being a majorly military type of leader. When the orders fail to go through, things fail to happen properly. And here we have a lot of birds. So yeah, these guys are actually quite weak to our magic because they're flying enemies, but the problem is surge magic's not much use here because that's along the ground and they're all flying enemies, so it would just miss most of them anyway. So it's better to be more strategic with that sort of thing and be more careful when you're using different types of magic and like what the context is for when you're using it. Like, you don't want to be using magic that even if an enemy's weak to, it won't be hitting at all. There's not much help having the weakness if you can't hit it with it.
Looks like we're done here.
It does, doesn't it?
So let's head to this belfry ahead of us, shall we? As you can see, again, is relatively high up, but then again, because it's a belfry, is also in a relatively easy to reach place, like the land does slope up towards it. So reaching it isn't that much of a problem. Because this is still technically the game on easy mode, it's not really starting to kick things into high gear yet, because we haven't got many movement abilities, and we're still quite far away from the central area where Sylar resides. So it's kind of gradually ramping things up. But the main thing in this area is not so much making it harder, but sort of making the objectives a little bit different. I find that kind of interesting in its own right. And we'll see that in a few minutes when we go for the next few types of obstacles. But for now, let's do the belfry to mark everything on the map, shall we? Yeah, some things aren't really anything, some things are just kind of where chests are, even if they look like they'd have a thing there. And that looks pretty interesting, so we're going to check that out in a minute. But first, there's something far closer. So we'll finally see what this icon's for. This is honestly one of my personal favourite types of collectibles in the game as well, and we'll see that when we get there.
What's that weird statue?
It looks like one of those cat things you so enjoy.
Yeah, I'm jumping the gun here by trying to use certain buttons that I haven't properly activated yet. Because the buttons only really activate during this event.
Whoa. Is that a cat?
It's a dragon cat.
In the middle of the break?
I assume that is no ordinary cat.
It's a dragon cat, and Frey wants it. So let's be quite careful, shall we, because it's still quite skittish. This is one of many collectibles in this game that are Tanta's familiar. This is the first cat that was allied with Syla, that we've found at least. So we have to quickly sneak up on her, and whenever this little icon appears, stop. If you keep moving when the icon appears, the cat will despawn, and you have to go back to the pillar and start the whole thing again, which in some areas can be quite annoying, and sometimes the cats do get quite skittish. And so of course in later areas, the cats will get harder to sneak up on as they get more alert.
Aw, good kitty.
Goodness, you're a regular catch.
So yep, this is the first of many cats we'll encounter, and something that's quite cute about these is, like most cats, they don't care what's happening in the world around them. Certainly everything else may have broken to the break, but the cats can just ignore it because they're cats. So all they really did, the cats are basically the last bastion of the Tanta's sanity. So they basically did what they could to mitigate the damage done by the Tantas, in this case by Syla, by helping their citizens escape their wrath. Which is quite a neat idea. I quite like how they've recontextualized the cat's somewhat prickly nature in a way that's made them a somewhat benign type of prickly if you can get to know them well enough. They're basically a microcosm for Frey in that way, in that they're good, but in no way are they nice. They're kind of just being cats, but also making sure that people are looked after.
Deep.
They're cats, but they're loyal cats. So let's head up over here. Not this way though, because that's a completely different area. We'll be doing that area later on, but yeah, some areas kind of like almost kind of one big area split into two. So we'll be dealing with that one later on. For now, we're still doing kind of a beeline for Syla because Faye's technically supposed to be on a sort of revenge kick right now. So we're being lore friendly, but for now, let's at least see what's with this big tower. Also, a new type of enemy that's actually weak to our surge magic that we can actually hit with it. So while I'm going to waste a bit of surge magic here on this one, so it's only going to hit one of them. Now at least now we know what we're looking for. So next time I'll be saving my surge magic for large numbers of goats. Of course, no matter how many times we fail to climb these things, it's always helpful because it still adds extra distance that we've climbed. Every time we fall, it still counts the stuff we've tried to climb. So this is going to be very helpful to finally finishing mastering our movement ability that we have here. You may have noticed this weird area. The area in this tower is very different. But we've seen it before as well, because this tower is in the middle of a breakstorm. And we can't get in this way. This is how the game starts mixing things up. This becomes the first of these towers that's actually a puzzle, not just enter the bottom, fight your way up. Now we have to figure out a way to get up to that balcony using these pillars. And we have some pretty good movement tech, so let's try and get there and see what we can do at this point. Because this is not only going to be very useful for showing how powerful the movement abilities can be, but also how limited they can be, but also showing how much variation this game allows when it comes to climbing stuff. Like, you see these big golden things that are clearly meant to be used to help get up this somehow, although we haven't learned how yet. But we can just use these little ledges to get up as well. Because the game does allow for certain creative movements because of how flat ledges are still counting as ledges no matter how small they are. So let's get this, another old coin.
Click.
I quite like the little puzzles, they're quite cute.
You got quite good at this.
Quite simple at first, but they're still quite cute and quite fun to do. But yeah, here we kind of see there is a big limit to how far we can move, and so we can't quite get there from here. So let's try and climb up one of these other pillars, and we'll see one of the main disadvantages of the movement abilities that we have right now. Not only because it's so limited, but also because of how kind of floaty the movement can be when climbing stuff. Given how narrow these ledges can be, it's very easy to accidentally fly over a ledge you're trying to land on, without meaning to, and that can be quite annoying. So while you could technically use movement tech to get up here, it kind of feels harder than it should do, because you can't just grab onto the ledge or whatever, you have to kind of like fling yourself over, and as you can see, you can easily accidentally fling yourself completely off. Also, it's generally best to do an actual dash attack off these kind of pillars, because it gives you a lot more distance. As we'll see here. As I make the mistake of trying to do a normal jump, and I can't chain from there, because you can only chain from a dash to a dash. You can't chain from a jump into two dashes. So dash to dash is actually a much better way of getting distance there.
Don't worry, I'm still good to go.
Wonderful. Then let's
But
get moving,
we'll
shall we?
see. Yeah, here you can see all how finicky it can be to actually land on the sides of these pillars. This is mostly just kind of to show how effective these techs can be though when you get good at the game. Yeah, it's always annoying that happens, but at least I can kind of have a bit of a shortcut there. And now let's do the actual tech to get across there by dashing and dashing again. And now let's try and get onto this balcony from here. Yeah, we don't quite manage it. We can't quite get there from here with the tech we have, but we can get very close, which is so frustrating.
Open your eyes.
So,
Me, I would if
we have other things we can do in this area
I
though.
think it's time you got some rest, don't you?
So I'll see you next time as we explore more of Middle Praenost and see what we can do in this area. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. And also leave a comment as well and share the video. Goodbye.